Welcome to the Las Vegasville podcast, brought to you by Jump Studios, where we cover topics related to everything happening around Sin City, including the social media scene, food, and a whole lot more, with some of the best, most popular accounts around the city, and talk about their success in Vegas and beyond. I'm your host, Philip Zhang, aka Las Vegas Phil. Check me out on IG or TikTok. On with the show. All right. Welcome to this week's episode. While the Las Vegasville podcast is primarily a show focused on food and social media, we definitely make exceptions, especially for senators. We're thrilled to have Nevada Senator Jacky Rosen. Elected to the Senate in 2018, the senator has been a leading voice on critical issues ranging from cybersecurity and healthcare to veterans affairs and immigration. She has made bipartisanship a cornerstone of her approach, working across the aisle on legislation that impacts not only Nevadans, but Americans nationwide. And today we'll explore her views on several topics. I also urge all of you who have the power and freedom to do it to please vote. Standing on the sidelines is absolutely ridiculous. And Senator Rosen, welcome to the show. It's an honor to have you.
Well, thank you for having me. And what I want to say, people should go vote and then look for you for recommendations for great places to eat after and celebrate the right to vote. I think that's a good pairing, right?
Absolutely.
So there you go. I know you'll tell everybody all the great spots.
For sure. Since it is a food kind of social media podcast, are there any maybe three favorite places for you in Las Vegas or Henderson?
Well, you know what? I've lived in Nevada. My family's been here nearly 50 years. I've lived here full time since 1980. But I've lived in Henderson for a very long time. So when I'm not busy and I get to sneak out, one of my favorite little sushi places is Spicy Tuna over in Henderson. So they have a great bento box for lunch and other great sushis. So it's one of my favorite spots to go in. And then if I get a chance to go out to breakfast before I start work, there's another place close to my house, the Cracked Egg, and that's really great. They have an amazing breakfast. And if I'm downtown, I'm out and about, you want some awesome pizza, you got to go no further than Esther's Kitchen. They've just done that great remodel, and they are food's amazing there.
Totally, yeah. The new renovation looks amazing. Yeah. I just walked by the place.
And the energy is great. And it just feels good to be there, and it feels good to be. I've lived here, like I said, my family nearly 50 years. To feel everything downtown, First Friday's celebrating its 22nd anniversary this week. And so you think about what was so small then and what it is now, talking about food and food trucks and the art scene and all of that. 20-some years now.
Incredible.
Yeah.
Yeah, time has flown. Let's get right into it. How do you see Nevada's unique challenges, such as its tourism industry and energy sector, shaping your approach to national policies, particularly regarding economic recovery and job growth in Nevada?
Well, Nevada, everybody knows tourism is a top economic driver in Nevada. And I am really proud to be the chair for the subcommittee for tourism in the Senate. And we've passed a lot of important legislation. But most importantly, what we have to realize is 25% of our workforce is in hospitality here in Nevada. And like I said, that's the top of what we do. So bringing things like the Bright Line train, that's going to bring all those folks from California into Nevada. It's going to have billions of dollars of economic impact. It's going to make maybe the I-15 a little less of a parking lot on the weekends, let's hope. We got to expand that too. That's another issue. But that billions of dollars of economic impact, that really matters. And how we think about improving our airports. I was part of the bill that improved our airports. We're laying broadband. And so from Harry Reid International up to Reno, you should see the Reno airport. They're just doing amazing things. They're growing up there. So tourism and investing in that's a backbone of our economy. But the new backbone, emerging industries are energy. And so Nevada's geography and geology really put us at the forefront of sustainable energy future. We have wind, water, solar, geothermal, and critical minerals. We have more solar jobs per capita than any state in the nation. A lot of small manufacturing companies are coming here to build component parts. And in northern Nevada, we have the only active lithium mine in North America. We've just become what they call the lithium loop. We're going to set the gold standard. Actually, we're the top gold producer in North America too, but we're going to set the gold standard. We're going to mine it. We're going to do research, development, improve that battery storage, and we're going to recycle it because it matters. So this is the future jobs for Nevada and for our world and for our country right here, sustainable energy jobs. And those are two things I'm really excited to work on and invest in.
Very cool. Yeah, what an exciting time just to be in Nevada with
Yeah.
so many things, so many exciting things coming up in the future. Question 6 will also be on the ballot to further protect reproductive freedom in the state. A yes vote supports providing for a state constitutional right to an abortion. No does not. It is mind-blowing to me that we're even
having
on
this
the ballot.
conversation.
It's
oh
crazy.
my gosh. I just want to tell you that I know it's been said over and over again, but my daughter, young women now have less rights than their mothers and grandmothers. And nearly a third of women in America today have no access to reproductive care. You see state after state, women go to emergency rooms where politicians are kind of looming over doctors' decisions, and women have died because no one will give them life-saving care. That's unacceptable. I'm always going to fight for women's care. This is about women's freedom to go to the doctor, go to the hospital, and get the care she needs. And I implore everybody who's watching out there, you have women in your life that you love? Do you want to see them die in an emergency room? Do you not want them to be able to make the decisions that are right for them in the privacy of their doctor's office? That's what is on the ballot in Nevada. We're a pro-choice state. We're a state that values our freedom to make our decisions, and I'm always going to fight for that. It's what's right. I don't want to see any women dying because of these laws.
Yeah. How do
You
we
have
even
women
get
in your
here?
how do you have women in your life you love? People say, well, I'm this or that. Yes, it affects everyone. Everyone. And what will they come for next?
Right.
So what will they come for next?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, maybe it's TikTok because lots of people in our industry make a good chunk
Yeah.
of their living,
Right.
through that. What's your
Yeah.
opinion on all of
Well,
that?
you know what? You love TikTok. I'm on TikTok, and we all watch. We learn a lot. We're informed. We have fun on it, and it's great. But what we have to do is think about the guardrails. When we think about, I actually was a computer programmer through most of my career, and when you think about privacy and protecting your data and protecting us against undue influence from our adversaries like China, that's what we have to work on. So we love having TikTok as a platform, but we have to be sure there are those guardrails in there so people don't use our data or use to break into our privacy, whatever that is, and use it against us, whether it's personally, professionally, politically, and that's our challenge here. And so we want to find the ways to keep TikTok going for all the other things we really like, and again, protect us from our adversaries. In this case, it's China.
Okay. I have several opinions on that.
Yeah.
But I just feel like since
Yeah.
TikTok's been around for 7 years, they probably have all the information to realize that we just like dancing videos.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I mean, I think that from my perspective as a former software developer, the data that they collect and how they see and how they look at trends of what people are doing or they're not doing, if you see that people want to exert undue influence or they want to exert influence in a political way or in a social way, they're looking at these trends and they're looking at ways to, in China's case, they're looking for ways to hurt us or harm us, whether it's economically, whether it's to sow chaos. It's not just fun for them. They're very targeted in what they want to do and how they're looking at this data and when and how they may decide to use it. And so I think it's just something we have to be careful of and we have to watch out for. And I want to just protect people from that kind of invasion of their privacy, political, personal, professional.
Okay. All right. You are the second woman ever to serve Nevada in the U.S. Senate alongside fellow Senator Kathleen Cortez Masto.
Yeah.
As a woman leader in politics, what challenges have you faced, and how do you think we can encourage more women to run for public office and take on leadership roles?
Well, I'm no stranger to being a only woman or one of the few women in a career. I started my career in tech in the 1980s. There weren't very many women writing computer code back then, designing software, and there's still only about 25% of that tech workforce. And so a lot of the bills that we've passed have tried to make sure, not just for young women, but for everyone, that they can see themselves in these great STEM education, whether you're a nurse, an engineer. Maybe you'll be an engineer and you'll help to take us to Mars, right? Maybe you'll write some great code. Maybe you'll be a nurse. Whatever those jobs are that we know you need STEM education. You have to be able to be literate in all of those things. And so it's really important. So I faced those challenges my whole life, and this time is no different. So what I want to urge people to do is just to not be afraid. I want to tell people that life isn't linear. And the older you get, when you look back at yourself, you think, you know what? Sometimes have a plan, but take a chance. Open yourself up to opportunity. Try something that somebody hasn't. Or you see an obstacle, well, what do they say? You see something, maybe you can't drive through it, but maybe there's some ways to go around it. Maybe there's some ways when you started your podcast, when you start your show, well, you didn't know how it was going to end up, but you took a chance. Other people were doing it, and you found your path, right? So I urge people, have a plan, but understand that life's not linear. Take a chance, step out of your comfort zone, try things. You'll be better for it whether you succeed or not, because those lessons learned will move you forward. I say this to women, I say it to everyone. Don't be afraid to try to move forward and think out of the box. I guess I learned that writing software, and in today's world, there's just so many ways for you to dive in and get involved in whatever you're interested in.
That's excellent life advice, and anyone, any range of age, absolutely. How did you make the transition initially from computer programming to politics?
Well, I'll tell you, when I was first approached to run for office, the thing that really convinced me to run was that what someone said to me was this. They said, don't think about it as going to change Washington. Think about this, the constituent services you do, the people that you listen to, whether they're individuals, whether they're nonprofits, hospitals, schools, teachers, businesses, large and small, veterans, seniors. You're going to take all those stories, and you're going to be able to take those stories, and they'll be common themes, small businesses, seeds of your legislation. And you'll take those and you'll do something in Washington. And those seeds of legislation, I've have over 90% of my bills are bipartisan. I've had so many bills proudly that I've introduced or sponsored, signed into law. They don't all get on the news. Only the most controversial ones get on the news. That's how that goes. But they've made real differences for people. And our constituent services, I can tell you that the veterans that we've helped, the seniors, so many other folks who call us with issues, my team working so hard to help people. I'll give you something that we fought the post office. This was up in Reno. We had a couple who were senior citizens, disabled Vietnam veteran. They lived kind of up on a hill. And they would get their prescriptions, all their mail delivered. It was hard for them to go down to where the mailbox was. But we found out about it, and we got involved. And we fought the post office, and we said, they can't go down. They're not going to get their stuff. They're important things. Veterans, seniors, disabled. Well, needless to say, we won. And the mail is still getting delivered to their home. Sometimes it's those little things that you don't do for people when you hear about it. And that's where you really derive the satisfaction and knowing that you're making a difference. And so that's how I view the job. I take the stories, we try to help everyone, and those become the seeds of what we need to do. And I feel like I've been doing that for Nevada, and hopefully I'll get to do it again for next 6 years.
Absolutely. What would be some key priorities for Nevada in the next 10 years?
Oh, well, number one is always lowering cost. It's always lowering costs. We've done that for seniors when we got wrote and passed the bill that gives seniors $35 insulin, cap the out-of-pocket costs. And there's so many expensive life-saving drugs. So now for the first time, Medicare can negotiate, and they've taken 10 of the top most expensive drugs, and we've negotiated prices for that. And when that goes into effect, it's going to put a $1.5 billion back into the pockets of seniors across the country, and about $6 billion back into Medicare. These are the kinds of ways that we can use the power of negotiation or other things to shore up these programs. So lowering costs at the gas pump, the grocery store, housing. We have to take on the corporate greed. We know the big oil, the Kroger at Albertsons, they want to merge, give us one store. They think that's going to make prices cheaper. Nobody's fooling. Nobody's falling for that one. So doing all that to lower costs. And on the same time, you have to expand the opportunity. So here we are, we're growing in Nevada. Affordable housing, we need a workforce. We have to expand our apprenticeships, people who build that out. The Bright Line train, we need trained electricians. Everything on the Bright Line train is going to be done with union labor. And so we need all of those folks. So expanding our apprenticeships. You talk about tech, you can get certificates, apprenticeship programs, go right away working in tech. Our health care, we have to expand our workforce. We have to train more nurses and all the folks, the ones who take your blood. We don't always like that, but take your x-rays, do all the other things that help our nurses and physicians take care of us. And so I think investing in the workforce and education, childcare, building, how we build community, good jobs, and thinking about what people want for their lives. And that's what I'm going to continue to work on.
Great. Having both sides agree to anything is at an all-time high in difficulty. It feels like the country's more divided than ever. Can you share some examples of bipartisan initiatives maybe you participate in, what you believe is key to effective cross-party collaboration because it's so polarized?
Well, you know what? I'm really proud to be listed as one of the most bipartisan, effective, and independent senators because my motto is this: agree where you can and fight where you must. People say, well, what does that mean? It means that, let's say you want to work on, we'll pick something, medical device cybersecurity. Now, what does that mean? People have a pacemaker. Everyone gets people have diabetes. They're diabetic. They put those patches on now. There's a lot of ways that people track their medical issues. Well, we don't want hackers getting into that and getting into your doctor's records or any of that. So I could work on a bill like that. Let's say, for example, whether it's cybersecurity, broadband, nurses, healthcare. You find your partners to work on those. You don't have to agree with them on everything. You don't always agree with your friends on everything, but you say, you know what, we're here to work on training more nurses. We're 4,000 nurses short in Nevada. Find the partner that wants to do that. They got nurse shortages everywhere. We work on that. That's why those 90% of the bills. So once you get a reputation for doing that, we just stick to the issue and find that way to get to yes and a good bill. These are sometimes the things you don't see on the news because ransomware, maybe medical device cybersecurity. We've got a lot of other things done in healthcare and education, but they're not as controversial because they're bipartisan. And that's the reputation I have, and that's how I find a way to work. Mind you, I'm going to argue when it comes to women's choice, when it comes to immigration. There's things that we can have a discussion about. We have to figure it out. That's okay, but it's not going to stop me from doing my job. People are counting on us to deliver results for them. We need broadband everywhere. Look, you stream out there. We need that broadband. A lot of places in Nevada didn't have it. It's not going to stop me from working with people to bring the best to Nevada.
Very cool. You were also the first person in your family to go to college, to afford higher education, and to make ends meet. You took out student loans, worked multiple jobs, including waiting tables at Caesar's Palace.
I did. You know what? That was the summer I turned 21. So it was, maybe just a couple years ago. But I did do that. My family moved here in about 1975, and so I moved here full-time when I graduated in 1980. But I did put myself through college as a waitress. My grandparents, immigrants. My dad, first-generation American, served in the war. He did try to take a few college classes, but he worked as a salesman. My mom was a homemaker, so that's what I had to do. And I worked everything from breakfast to dinner to cocktails at Caesar's Palace. And even when I got my first job in tech, as a woman, I didn't get paid as much as the guys I worked with. I still worked banquets on the weekends.
Wow.
And thank God for 226, Culinary Union 226, because they gave me that opportunity. Back then, you sat down at the union hall. They gave you these little yellow slips, and you'd go out. And, it just teaches you how important it is that we make education, whatever it is, job training, education, affordable for everyone. So I can just tell you, whether you're in labor, whether you're in tech, whether you're in the medical spectrum, there's so many jobs. Go to a hospital. You will find jobs that you didn't even know existed. We need people to do each and every one of them. So we have to make them all accessible and affordable for people. And I never forget the lessons of how I saved those tips in envelopes, how long it took me to pay my student loans, how I didn't get equal pay for equal work. And I'm not that young girl I was at 21, doing cocktails at Caesar's Palace. It was learned a lot from that job, that's for sure. But it shaped who I am today.
And the evolution of just women in the workforce.
Yeah.
I mean, your journey
Yeah.
from what it is to now.
Mm-hmm.
I mean,
I couldn't wear pants to work. My boss said,
Really?
women don't wear, and this was in the 80s. You wore a dress? Oh, and you wore pantyhose. Oh, my goodness. The only time you could wear pants to work is if you maybe had some day we had like casual Friday or something. I had bosses who were very much, you come to work in a dress. This was the 1980s, and I was a project manager at some time, and I remember having to give out the raises to my team, and the men got more than I did, and they said, well, I wasn't married at the time, you don't have a family. I said, well, the electric company, frankly, doesn't care, right? The bills are still the same. But the 80s were a time that you were glad to be there. You knew that you had to just do what you had to do to be in the workforce and make your mark. And luckily, we've come a long way since then. Still not far enough, but we've learned a lot. And I try to mentor young women all the time, and just young folks behind me, how to stand up for themselves, how to claim their space, and work in your career, work hard, but be treated with dignity.
great. I mean, that kind of wraps up the podcast. I mean, are there any other key points that you'd like to cover aside from voting?
Well,
obviously?
voting is your voice. For all these years, over 200 years we've been a country, the peaceful transition of power, the ability to vote, and every vote counts. This is where we're admired around the world. Admired. We stood up as like, this is the shining example. And it's kind of like being a good sport. You see people play the Super Bowl or whatever. They go out, they play hard, and when they're done, what do? What do you teach your kids who play sports? You shake hands, you're a good sport, good game, and you live to fight another day. This is what people expect, and this is what we should expect for this election and going forward, that we go back to that time when people could be good sports. You played hard, you fought to win, just like we teach our kids. Thank you, next, you go on to the next game. And so what I want people to know is that we have to lead with that dignity and respect. We have to listen to everyone and try to deliver results. Be bipartisan. It's not a dirty word. Make sure that you're delivering for communities. Plenty of places you can disagree, but find everywhere you can and do that. So what I want everyone to know is that your vote is your voice. It matters. It is a greatest privilege in the world. Go out, exercise it, use it, and don't be afraid. I believe it really matters. People are watching. This election is so important for so many freedoms that we care about. So I'm humbly asking for your vote and hoping that whoever you vote for, you still exercise your right to vote. And then, of course, take your suggestion where you go out to eat after. There you go. Ice cream or dessert to celebrate the vote. Give us a great suggestion for dessert after we vote to celebrate.
Well, I'm not really that big a dessert guy. Actually, I prefer an extra appetizer. However,
Okay, well, that's all right. It's all
I'm going
right.
to give out a shout out to Suzuya Cafe.
All
It's
right.
a Japanese bakery on Spring Mountain.
All right.
I
there
think
you
that's
go.
where I would go celebrate. Maybe a black coffee with that. Yeah,
That's right. Dessert and coffee is always good.
absolutely. Senator, it was an absolute pleasure
Thank
having
you.
you on. I really appreciate
you.
it. Everyone, please vote, and see you later.
Thank you.